Day 6. Day 6 is not today. I'm a little bit behind, so it's actually gloomy and kind of yucky, and you can see there's sun behind me. So on a day 5, like I was sharing, I was heading to the shelter, and I was 1 mile away from the shelter. It was getting pretty late, and I was running out of steam. I was okay, but I had gotten pretty slow. It was a beautiful day, after Trail Magic there were beautiful views, and overall it was good. But when I got to one of the tent sites where 2 of the people were there, Nemo and Dennis were there, and they were also in the same tent site where I stayed night before. And I was asking how far is I knew that shelter was 1 mile away. And they said, well, it's steep. And I thought, you know what, I have a mile in me, but I don't think I have a mile that's steep. And I didn't check my own app, and it turned out it was not that steep. So instead of going to the shelter, I stand at a tent site, pitched the tent, and it rained at night. I woke up, was water in my tent. It was not a pleasant experience. Where I had built the tent, it was a little bit downhill. That was the best spot I could find. So I thought I was smart sleeping with my head higher, my feet lower, but at the bottom of my feet, as I was sleeping, I kept sliding down slightly. So the footprint of my tent was a few inches shorter after my tent had slided over. And where it had slided and where my feet were pushing, I had a couple inches of rain. Tried to put my gear out in the morning to dry, but it was kind of dreary gray morning and not much drying was happening. It dried a bit. And it also was my first solitude experience. Nemo and Dennis left, and this was the first time on the trail, so on a day 6, that I was totally alone in the tent site by myself, figuring out where to go. And my directional skills are not good. So usually when I'm heading out of the camp or the shelter, I'm like, which way do I go? So now I'm like, I need to know which way to go. And I started walking slowly. And this marks the very first day of a lot of solitude on a trail. I think in the beginning, seeing more people is kind of natural. But then as everybody starts figuring out their own speed and their own morning start times and night end times, you see less and less people. So I walked all morning. I only saw Sunbeam, I think, was the day when I saw her. And I saw this girl, Sam, who had injured her knee and had to get off to get taken care of. But otherwise, it was just me walking most of the day by myself, which was good, but it was also a different experience. This was suddenly not the social things that we are here to do. It was me in the woods. And in a sense, I did come for my own healing. I came to walk my own path. This is my way home. And it's becoming that, and I am becoming. And tonight I made to Trey Shelter, which was my plan, so I did succeed on that. And I actually feel very proud of myself that the plan I put together sitting on couch before I left is only 1 day behind. So I am 1 day behind my plan. Let's say I wanted to be in my first hostel on day number 6, and I am in Trey Mountain Shelter, and that hostel would be the day after that. So I think it's pretty good to just have 1 day of error in a real circumstances, rather than what you are imagining when you are just, scribbling on a piece of paper, sitting on a couch in the comfort under the blanket and all that. So at the Trey Mountain, I wanted to stay in a shelter because I was so wet the night before. I didn't want to deal with another possibly wet morning of having my gear wet. So When I got there, there was this homeless guy, and I had been warned about homeless people on trails. So on my day 6, it was my first experience, and he pretended to be a hiker, but it's clearly that he's not. And he had beautiful dog with him, like absolutely beautiful dog. And he was at the shelter, and I'm like, I'm not gonna sleep next to that guy. So I'm just taking a look, and I understand I can't go much farther because there are no other shelters around, but I did not feel comfortable. He was not doing anything, don't get me wrong, there was nothing done towards me. I was just out of comfort. And then this one guy comes from the stream. His name is Zach, and he just looks like a totally decent, nice American guy. And he has his tent pitched there, so I creep up to him and I said, Zach, is it okay that if I build the tent not far from yours? I just don't want to sleep in the shelter there. And so I built a tent not far from his, and then a couple more people came in, and they were all wonderful, and we had good conversations, and ended up that the homeless guy actually didn't sleep in the shelter. He actually built the tent very close to where all our other tents were, but I felt safe in the tent. And only one of the ladies that rolled in later slept in a shelter. So yeah, that sums up day 6. Ended up in a Tray Mountain shelter. Tray Mountain itself was beautiful. In the morning I watched the sunrise, and it was absolutely gorgeous. Again, had my toe treatment, stood in a cold water creek, get my toes taken care of. It really does help with the inflammation a lot to cool my feet off.